Grand Rising family, it's Shay Seeking, and this is Not Your Mama's Bible Study, along with a little bit of his story lied. Today we're going to go ahead, this is random. I was listening to a fellow YouTuber doing a video um, on, I think he was trying to bring some more understanding to what's going on in John 3 and 16. And then he went into speaking about a couple of things about, like, I think the video was called A Nation Divided, God's Plan, or something like that. And I won't use any names because, again, this is not anything but me listening in on fellow truth seekers and speakers. And basically, sometimes when I'm listening to others speak, of course, we're all going to have sometimes, because we're at different levels of understanding, we're all going to have different interpretations as to what's going on. But again, I think that when I was listening, which if you do look at the video, I think it was probably about the 5 minute mark to the 15 or to the 16 minute mark that I watched. And again, I don't want to put the thing up here because I'm not trying to act like this is something of me telling anyone they're wrong, combating. It was just me simply listening to his message, and then something came over me in order for me to look a little bit deeper into this, because again, this is what we all should be doing. So again, I'm never here to tell you what it is, what it ain't. I'm just sharing with you guys what it looks like to me, and everyone will get this information, and depending on where you are, and you should be able to come up with your own understanding. But again, it shouldn't shift us or have if it's the right message, then I can't explain how it will work. Okay, so again, it just depends on you and what information you can obtain. We cannot all obtain all the same information the same exact way. So all we're doing is trying to basically put together the pieces, and I will hope share with each other and inspire others to do the same thing. So again, this is nowhere near me attacking his material or anything like that. It just, when I sat there and listened from that mark to that mark, my brain was just going. It was just going. And so I wanted to come on, and the video actually inspired me. And again, I can listen to someone even if I don't agree with every single thing they say. I just, I guess it's just something that leads me to actually listen. You know what I'm saying? And then try to interpret what's going on. So again, yes, I do have a different opinion about some of the stuff that he was saying in the video. But again, this is nowhere near me trying to say mine is right or his is right. Like I said, we're all just trying to put the pieces together. Okay, so again, we're going to go into John 3. Now, this led me into so many things because, and it's funny that we're talking about John, Adam and John. You know what I'm saying? And I think he was talking about how everybody descended from Adam, but I disagree with that because I feel like, in my eyes, I see who Adam is and what that is, and we're going to go into that after this. But so basically right now he was referring to 3 and 16. He said it'll give people a better understanding. So after I listened to that, I went on over to 3 and 16, and it led me to do this portion first, which is separate, and then I'm going to go ahead and I took some notes from his video, and then I want to go ahead and tell you guys what I was feeling and then what I saw after I did some research on what he was saying. So again, we're in John 3, and which I find is so funny because I told you guys I have this thing where, and I think I've been putting it on the sidelines, and I probably need to get back to it, where I was speaking on John Brown. Okay, now again, we on this channel, I'm thinking with my heads out of the cloud, grounded as to pertaining to knowing who these people are we are dealing with, and how they've twisted up our minds in order to give us a separate perception as to what we're supposed to be seeing here. So again, we're bringing this back to a historical matter. There's no longer that this is some unseen woo spiritual kind of God in the sky, devil underground. We're grounding ourselves here, okay? And we're using different things. And I think on that channel he likes to use 3 references or 2 witnesses or something when he's doing that. And that's fine, because I think that, like, what he does is go off of the scripture that he's reading, and then sometimes goes into other scriptures, grabs them from different portions of the Bible, and then brings them in as being the other witnesses or whatnot. I'm not even sure if that's the same term that he uses, but in my eyes, I think that you have to also see that My witnesses, okay, you don't have to do anything. My witnesses that I use are the text, lots of different forms of the text, other books as far as the Apocrypha and the um, uh, we're using etymology, we're using the concordance, we're using um, different the Nag Hammadi, we're using different things that I've read over time that are, helping me see things a little bit differently. So I like to use that because, again, in my real life, I wouldn't just use one thing in order to uh, prove something or to be a witness to something, especially if it's a totally different portion of the book. Because at that point in time, we could have been talking about something totally different to a whole different group of people in a whole different place. So again, we have to also keep that in mind. And this is why I like to stay in the text as much as possible, but maybe make reference to other things here and there when I'm trying to show you guys something, because I think that you should be able to, if that's the case, then you should be able to use that particular text in that chapter at that time to show what we're talking about. Okay, so again, I love this brother's channel. Anybody that's looking and speaking truth, that is not what I'm here to do. I just respect these people and I do listen to them, but I also am going to have my own way of looking at it, because I think that the difference between me and a lot of other people is that they still, and there's nothing wrong with this. Again, I'm not trying to control anybody in their thoughts. So I think that a lot of difference between me and some people that are reading the word is they still have a form of an attachment to this God that's supposed to be for them. And this is people of color or Aboriginal people around the world, mainly when we're talking about the Old Testament here in America. So when it comes to that case, this is just in my soul, it just feels different because I see the way that these people operate and they do not change. So when it says that the Lord or God does not change us, it doesn't. They just masquerade and they just do crafty things in order to manipulate the situation or your mindset. Okay, so again, and this whole thing with John Brown, me thinking that he has something to do with, if not Jesus himself, okay, because I separate Jesus from Christ. Okay, I think Christ is like a Christ consciousness, so this might be a man that had something to do with reference with Jesus, but again, it's about that consciousness. So that means that a couple of these people could have come within that time, you know what I'm saying, and acted on this consciousness. Okay, so we're not just maybe talking about one man, just like we're waiting for one person to come back now. And I think that what we are really waiting for is for a group of people. Okay, it's waiting for us, those who are breaking down the word and actually doing our research and going deep into this. But the first thing that I had to do was let go of any concept that there is going to be a savior but the people themselves. And so that led me to believe that there's no such thing as this religious, spiritual God figure, unless we're talking about a mere man that they have turned into something, they put on high and turned him into something else. So in my eyes, there's no such thing as this. The God force that is pushing things to work in this world is the governing forces. Those are the people in high places, the principalities and rulers, and these are the people that conduct things in the world over our heads, as us being the children or their children in a sense. Okay, and it just so happens that some of those people came here and stole this land from those children, planted themselves there, and then now they're conducting how these people should work, and things are not working too well for these people because it's not natural. It's not a natural presence that's here. It's a foreign entity that is here in this land, posing as somewhat of a sovereign nation. Again, that is misleading the real people of the land, and it's just because of who you are and in where you're from. Okay, so again, I'm sorry if that was a long rant, but I just want you guys to see where I'm coming from, and I'm not an ill will person, and I don't care. I don't care who it is. I believe that everybody should be able to speak their truth. And again, none of this truth is going to change because we're all seeking something, and all we can do is just build on it. Okay, so again, we're here in John 3. Again, another attachment I feel like I have to this is me and this John Brown share a birthday. So that doesn't mean anything more than that. I just was kind of surprised that we shared a birthday, and then, just dealing with like numerology and looking into it and doing my numbers. A lot of what he stood for is kind of what I'm standing for. Things that are speaking of your birthright. In my number is something about freedom. Freedom is very important to me, and it's my birthright. And then even looking at my numbers today, or just recently, it was telling me that I'm my group that are here now are reserved for something, and is to change something and bring forth truth about something that has been basically manipulated by people for a long time. And this is what my life's journey is about, too, and it will end. So again, I'm on my own journey here. I don't think that everybody has to be on the same journey. All we just need to be is on one accord, and that's to show who and what we're really dealing with and where we really stand. Okay? So here we go. It's funny that we're in John, and I'm telling you that I think that we're talking about John. I think we're talking about John Brown as a Jesus figure. Okay? So let's see what we can find, because I found some awesome stuff, and we're just going to go ahead and go in as much as we can. Okay? So it says this miracle, okay? This miracle at Cana in Galilee was Jesus' first public demonstration of his heaven sent power. Demonstration of his, a demonstration of his heaven sent power, and his disciples believed that he really was the Messiah. So, just so I don't drag you guys on, I'm trying to learn how to kind of lay these videos out. So I'm just doing the best that I can. So when we're reading that, I'm already thinking that disciples, and then I'm thinking of what is his name? John Brown and his 10 devout associates. They called them John Brown and his associates. Okay. And it's saying that they really believed that he was the Messiah, and that he was a abolitionist, and had come from generations of abolitionists, and that his followers, of course, some colored men. He had a blended family where he had colored people in his family, maybe even his parents or someone really close could have been, and that even so-called African Americans or Black, what we call today Aboriginals, were backing him 100%, and they even had like a parade, and they sang a song for him, John Brown's Body, right? So you can look up this song on your own, or I might show it here. And that they cheered this on, and he had a lot of backing from these people. So it says after the wedding, he left. Now, this wedding could have been a wedding of some sorts, even though he was in. There was a story about him coming from a wedding, John Brown, of his daughter or something. But again, it could have been a joining of nations. It could have been some other thing, because some festival that was going on annually was going on at that point in time. And so we look back at Harper's, what is it called? You know what I'm saying, okay? Because we'll see it here in a second. So, and it said that his mother was I'm using warrior, but like a soldier, or a someone that was fighting in the Revolutionary War, and his father. But what purpose they were serving, I'm not 100% sure, because again, I just put all this stuff together in about 10 minutes. Okay. So it says a few days. Okay, after the wedding, he left for Capernaum for a few days with his mother, brothers, and disciples. Now, this story has been told that John Brown left with his 2 sons, or 3 sons. And all 3 of those sons were supposedly killed within these battles, or within his journey. Okay. Now, these could have been sons, or these could have been his group or his army. Do you see what I'm saying? Because we're going to see a lot of stuff about him getting some kind of funding for weapons and all these other things to fight this war that he was going in on. So again, so and then it said a group of, some places say 10, some people say 16, but anyway, he had a group of these people. Okay. Then it was time for the annual Jewish Passover celebration, and Jesus went to Jerusalem. Now, we all know that there was a place called, and I have this pulled up. This is just Bible Hub. I guess this is just the scripture, just so you guys can kind of reference where I'm at in the book. So, let's see. Okay, so there was a thing going on in Jerusalem. So it just so happens that John Brown, let me get to my page, that John Brown was actually from or in Charleston, Virginia. And I was wondering, since we know Cortland, Virginia used to be Jerusalem, okay? Um, uh, I was just wondering, I'm going to look up and see how close that is, okay? How close they are to each other to see if we're even in the presence, because you remember that in the text it says our Messiah or whatnot was the one that you slew and hung from a tree. So it just so happens that John Brown was lynched by governing forces for his work that he was doing. Okay. And I'm thinking it's because he did something where he attacked some men that were caught selling slaves. And he was saying that this is not something you should do. But again, so I don't make mixed reference. I'm just going to, even if I don't read through, I'm just going to show you guys, and you can stop and pause the screen and see where we're talking about this. All of this information is up here at the top. It says in the temple area, he saw merchants selling uh, cattle, sheep, and doves for sacrifices, and money changers behind their counters. Now, again, I'm wondering if this is talking about selling some form of a slave, because we're talking, could we be talking a beast of the field here that represents certain groups of people or certain so-called races of people or groups of people that were being sold. And again, it doesn't matter. We're talking about chattel and we're talking about slavery. So this is what I would think that we're talking about here. And then bankers, okay, maybe on the stock market, because again, we would call it stock, okay, behind their counters. So it said Jesus made a whip from some rope and chased them all out and drove out the sheep and oxen. Again, we would have to look at, now I don't know if the sheep have something to do with the Scottish, but again, what we would have to do is go ahead and see who had an oxen on their coat of arms and who had a sheep, or what would this symbolically be talking about in this time as to what was going on. Okay, it says scattering the money changers, okay, coins over the floor and turning over their tables. So this, he came, this thing that happened at let's see, Harper's, because I don't want to keep mistaking what we're saying here. Let's see. I mean, I just clicked on it, so I know we're gonna, Harper's Ferry. Okay, and then I want to. I know that there's somebody in his family line that was named Frederick. Now I'm thinking, what were they doing with these last names? How were they? It just, I don't know, y'all. I'm just starting to think that. And then he had a connection with Harriet Tubman too, and it's just a lot of stuff just coming to me as to who these people were, because it was said that his sister had owned a cabin. Okay, Harriet Tubman was close with him, supposedly. And I'm just looking at it, y'all. I'm just looking at it because you just don't, Okay. Then going over the men selling doves. Again, we would have to look at who's, and I really do think this we're talking about. We would have to look at whose coat of arm would be doves. Okay. He told them, get these things out of here. And this is kind of like the thing that he went and did. What? Okay, let's see. By early 1859, Brown was leading raids of free slaves, okay, to free slaves in areas where forced labor was still in practice. primarily in the present day Midwest. Again, this is my area. At this time, he also met Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass, activists and abolitionists, both. And they became important people in Brown's life, reinforcing much of his ideology. Okay? With Tubman, he called General Tubman. Again, we have that gene here. Genesis, general, okay? When you look that up in etymology, you'll see why we make reference to that a lot on this channel. Brown began planning an attack on slaveholders as well as the United States military armory at Harper's Ferry. Okay? So Virginia, non-West Virginia, or now, look at y'all. I'm so excited. I'm kind of like shook in a little bit some of the stuff that I'm seeing here. Because, again, no one was there to confirm it, but I think this is very damn close. It's closer than really thinking that these are some mythical people that you do have a connection with, when all in all, there is one that's important to know, but it's not what religion has added fluff and too much imagination and faith and belief. You know what I'm saying? In order to know that this stuff is tangible. So we have to bring it back to real life, okay? Using armed freed slaves. So again, these people believe that he was a Messiah, who was someone that would be leading someone to freedom or something, possibly. We can look at Messiah in etymology. Okay. He hoped the attack would help lay the groundwork for a slave revolt. And historians have called the raid a dress rehearsal for the Civil War. Brown recruited 22 men in all, including his sons, Owen and Watson. Okay. And there's always this question about, did Jesus have children, and Mary Magdalene, and then there's a Mary. Okay, we'll go into that later. But and then these, because I think he had two different wives and had children with them. And then one was supposedly a slave or a former slave, possibly. So again, okay, let's not get too far behind. Okay. And several freed slaves. So again, these were his disciples, or his, apostles, maybe, like in this sense. Okay. The group received military training in advance of the raid from experts within the abolitionist movement. Okay. So again, this is very close because we're looking at George Washington. And we're looking at some of these people that he even had as his main guys that were fighting under him. So it's just, all of this stuff is usually linked, okay, especially when it comes to the military, because again, the Lord is a man of war. And when we found out the other day in the concordance that angels mean soldiers, okay, in some instances, this is very detrimental to bring this back to real life, okay. At the former's estate, the Washington family continued to own slaves. Okay, so again, this is talking about all that, but we're going to go back into the word. So it says, and there is a story that John Brown did get out a rope or something, or a whip, and he lashed it out. Now, if this is symbolic for something, or if he actually did this, I don't know, because I spent time trying to look for the text for it. But I know that I heard it in a video that was like a documentary or a biography of what happened. That someone said, well, it was actually said that he did this, this, and that. So again, they were just saying that that was said. Who knows? I really can't find the documentation of that. Okay. Okay. So Jesus made a whip from some ropes and chased them all out. Not to mention that they do still have some of this rope that they lynched him with. That's supposed to be on display or something, which is ridiculous. Okay. So, and chased them all out and drove out the sheep and oxen, scattering the money changers' coins over the floor and turning over their tables. Then going over to the men selling doves. He told them, get these things out of here. Again, I can't wait any longer. We're just going to have to go see what doves are. Well, you know what? We'll go here first. Because even the most basic words should be run through etymology, because it will give you so much more insight, okay? And again, birds of the family of Columbidae. or be whatever. Okay, so again, birds of the family. This is the first thing we're getting when we're looking up dove. Again, like I said, this could be a family crest or some type of symbol that symbolizes a group of people. Okay, so it says Proto-Germanic, Duban, um, uh, let's see, Dutch, High German, tuba. This word here, I think, is going to be somewhere where we're going to be seeing this here. German, okay, perhaps a word for dive, um, but the application is not clear unless it somehow refers to flight. Okay, so again, dove, uh, family tree. Are we talking a crest? Are we talking fowl of the air? Okay, originally applied to all pigeons. Now, when a different portion in the book we were just reading a while ago when it said get two pigeons, two she goats, two this. I went through every single one and we found the family trees and the lineage. And again, we are going back to the beginning because this is talking about the people that laid that first touched ground here in 1600. Who was on the boats that came here with them and what districts and things that they were planted in order to grow. So again, now mostly restricted to the turtle dove, symbol of gentleness, the Holy Spirit in Genesis. Okay, so again, what are we talking about? Okay, and a peace and deliverance from anxiety. Okay, a person who advocates peace. Okay, so a female dove, innocent. Okay, so again, he's like, get them out of here. I'm guessing because they were not supposed to be where they were. Okay, so let's just see who has doves on their coat of arms. Okay, I see I've already been here. Let's see, because I think there was two when it came to the doves, and one was dove and one was oh, right here, pigeon. Okay, so there we go. So we just saw in the text dove or pigeon. Okay, and then now here we go with dub. See, dub. I was gonna say Dublin, but again, Dubo. Okay. Um, Ooh, where was I just at? Okay. Okay. So again, this things sound very, it just put, but again, this Gaelic, I'm into some Gaelic reading right now. So now I'm seeing that this is what maybe because I've been looking at is why I'm able to bring this into and now see something more, right? That's why it's a lot of study and a lot of people don't have time to do that. So I hope that we're here doing our due diligence and studying real hard with using all the materials that we've been given here internally and externally to actually break down this word and give the truth. Okay, and again, it's hard to do that if you're still looking to this God figure as someone that is there that cares about you, because that's not, there could be someone, but religion and Christianity does not have you giving your energy to that. They derailed your intentions to worship something else that does not mean well for you. And until we break away from that and stand back and say, whoa, and really look at what's going on, this is what's going to continue to happen. So angelicized as black. Okay. Scottish. Okay, see, there we go with the Scottish for dove or pigeon. Dove, daw. Okay. These families of Edinburgh, 1366. 4 years later, John. Okay, here we go. John Doe or Dow. And that's reminding me Dow of the stock market as well. Okay. Okay, because these same families have been spread out. So I think that the message too in his video was about how God spread the people and divided the nations. But again, this was him allotting his people this land on top of the people that were already here. So on this channel, we have a theory of pre-Adamite people. That means the Aboriginal people that were found here by the Europeans that were copper colored or brown people that have been misled and lied to, and your story has been changed. Because I think he goes into the fact that you need to ask your fathers who you are, and they will tell you. So again, in the second portion of, oh, sorry, my nails against my sewing machine. But this second portion is going to go deeper into that and what that meaning possibly could really be talking about. But I know it's not talking about you. You're going to remain. When we're talking about Israelites and all this stuff, just be real careful. I mean, you could probably be Israel because that would be the original, but the Israelites, that's someone else. That's the lighter version of you that was stolen from, that was used. Okay. So let's say they took something like DNA, and let's look at that rib in a reference of DNA from Adam and the original people there. You see what I'm saying? So this is maybe how he fell, actually. Again, we're talking about that fruit again. But let's not go all the way over there. We're here, okay? So again, this is talking about these years would be years for this family, okay? Early notables of these families, they're going to give pre-1700s, again. That is prior to any type of well, this would be probably after Noah's flood, but this is before they actually had a real government set up here. This is before this is when they were laying the firmament, okay? And mixing up the children of the land with other people. So some of the first settlers of this family were these people. So Francis, Philip, Sarah, and you'll notice that these names keep perpetuating through. Even with, I think he was saying something about the bloodline of Adam, and that they said that we are all children of Adam. Yeah, they are, because all of these family lines come from the same bloodline all the way up until Obama, as to your governing forces that have been put in that seat. Okay, so they all share common ancestors, which means that yes, they are all. They are all the foreigners. We'll just call them foreign entities. Okay. So again, Timothy, all these names you're going to see, they're going to keep colliding. You can see where the families meet. You can see where Lincoln's family meets with John Adams, where Washington's family meets with. So again, that's talking about those people. And again, we know that he was the first vice president and the second president. Okay. The one to preside in the garden in the east, in the garden in the east of Eden. Okay. So again, we see what we came to see. So we can just go back into the word. Okay. So, okay. Then going over to the man selling doves. He told them, get these things out of here. Don't turn my father's house into a market. So again, don't turn his father's house into a market. Sorry. It's all labeled. Okay, sorry. Some people just don't really listen to do not be disturbed. Okay. Excuse me. Then, okay, so he said, don't turn his father's house into a market. Now, exactly what this is talking about, I don't know if it's a slave market or what he's talking about. You know, we would have to go back and see exactly where this happened. You know, then his disciples remembered his prophecy, or this prophecy from the scripture. Okay. And again, let's just get a quick look at what the scriptures are. If I even spelled that right. Let's see. Sometimes you gotta, okay, yeah. So again, early 14th century, the sacred writings of the Bible. So again, in that time, in the 14th century, these were just looked at as writings of the Bible. Now, it didn't say it is the Bible. So in my eyes, this makes me think that these are secret, tucked away writings that are going to go into the Bible. It's going to be of the Bible. One day it's going to be in the Bible. This is what I mean by the fact that we can very well be talking about this Bible not being done being, or the biblio part of the Bible not being all put together yet until the 1800s. And then we know for a fact that you didn't get it here into America until the late 1800s and the early 1900s, when people could actually purchase a Bible and take it home with them. But by that time, they had already changed the mindset of the people of the land and those that were coming into the land, because there was someone there telling you what the Bible is saying and explaining it, and basically changing your perception as to what was actually taking place, instead of letting you get the book and get your own interpretation of what's going on at that time. And I think that this is just how it happened. Okay. So there was only certain people that worked in the house of God, or in that governing force of the caste system, that were able to obtain and keep a Bible. And sometimes they would maybe let you have it at church, but in some of these older Bibles, you can see where it says in that they were only supposed to be used in the church only. Okay, so let's keep going. So it said, concern for God's house. Now this is God's house, okay, will be my undoing. So it says, concern for God's house will be my undoing. I guess this means maybe it says, don't turn my father's house into a market. Okay, exclamation mark. Then his disciples remembered this prophecy from the scriptures. Concern for my God's house will be my undoing. Now this, I don't know. And again, I know a lot of people say that, like they're saying now that we are gods, but in a sense, what do we mean? If you mean that you are the original, that the creation, or the archetype, that the creation, which are the foreign and sub races and groups, were molded after by being penetrated, okay, at the hip. And we look at hip, we look at pelvis, and we see what that's actually talking about. And some of it is talking about some pretty graphic stuff, so you would have to do that on your own, because I think I did it in the other video yesterday. But we'll see what conception and what is really being talked about here. Okay, so yeah, so we already looked at what the scriptures are, and then let's look at prophecy. Okay, because again, on this channel we look at it as prophecy or plan. There could very well have been a plan, and since there's only one person that is running, or one group of people that want to keep their status where it is and keep yours where it is, that will be in control of this information, while dumbing the nation down with sports and school and church and self-hate and so-called racism and so-called white supremacy and all these other things, while they again race to the top and you're still at the bottom, because a real race is about a race. It's a relay race. Think of it as that. Type up race in etymology, see what the terms are, and see how it sits with you. The race didn't start off being about your skin color, your complexion. The caste, or the caste system, is when that took place. And the caste system was created by the God of creation. So, you have to do your research on those things. But again, a scribe, well, I'm thinking scribe, but it's scribble, whatever, to cut, to separate, to sift, okay, to cut. Again, the original people have been cut off. Just like the 1828 dictionary says, the definition for America is the aboriginal or copper color races that were found here by the European, but the term now applies to the descendants of the European. Again, that's when God blew the breath of life in them, and they are living creatures, and you are not. You are dead by law when you're calling yourself something that you are not, as far as African American or black. Because again, black is not a nationality, it's a color. And African American, again, these are misnomers. These are misnomers that they have us calling ourselves by these things, so we can continue to stay in that situation that we're in. Okay. So again, to write, to scratch. Again, it's funny we're talking about scribes here too, because, and then also it says in the biblical text that we're going to cut them off from being a nation. Okay. Again, remember, this is the nation that came into a nation and then wrote Genesis, creating, talking about this is the story of creation, but they didn't let you know that this is a creation of their world. Look at their world. Look at the term world. Their world is something that has something to do with them in that upper realm of the caste system and you being on the ground. Okay? So let's see. Reading, the reading of one's own idea into scripture. Again, look at this. These are related terms. I like to look at these because it gives you a deeper insight. Okay? So then here we go right here with this 1859. It's so funny that John Brown's death was around that time. I think it was that year exactly. Actually, yes, it was. And then there were some things that happened in 1869 because he was born on May 9th and he died sometime. I can't remember what month it was in the 1800s or 1800. Okay. So again, this is when they would have changed. So all you Pharisee and scribes, you see what I'm saying? This is when things must maybe have been changing. But again, the scriptures were being written because it's about American history. It's about the ancient, hidden, alternative history that they don't want you to know about because it was in a dark time or the dark ages when dark was on the face of the deep and they were ruling. Okay? So hold on one second. Oh, these children. Okay. So let's see, having a secondary spiritual sense, elevation, again, there's elevation, mental elevation, because what they've done is remove the temple or removed that the goodliness or God from your personage and basically given you their identity. So we've taken on the mindset of the oppressor and we've taken on the perception that he's instilled in us from the day we were born. And this is the thing that you don't understand. By your television, all of these holy days or holidays and just with language itself, okay? The gospel is about casting a spell on the people. So again, I look at the scripture and I know that there is something very powerful within all of us. It has to be activated by you denouncing these outwardly idol in this idol worship that has been placed in your mindset as you worshiping God when it is not. If you were worshiping God, it will be something that's within you if you are supposedly made in their likeness. And again, you cannot be, okay, now there are some people that are made in their likeness, but that is the foreign people, more than likely lighter skinned white people. That is what it means when he formed them in his image, because the people that were here when they came here were dark people. Okay, and once they got the choicest fruit and placed them in the east, that is talking about so-called white people or other groups of people, foreign entities. Just like that whole thing with Washington, D.C., those are foreign entities. A foreign nation planted itself within your walls and is now running the people into the ground, okay? Mentally, physically, and spiritually. And then us getting in tune with ourselves first and grounding ourselves and pointing out things, even if it's scary, because fear is how they get you to worship this God. Fear of going to hell is how and you don't even understand the twisting and turning that has been done, okay? To lead up to lift up. Again, this is putting them on high. Again, when we look at the caste system, I keep showing you guys, the pyramid is floating above the outcast, which are the Dalit people or the indigenous Aboriginal people. Okay? The so-called white or foreign entities, or the aliens or immigrants and immigrants, they preside at the bottom portion of the pyramid. Okay? You're outside of it and under it. Okay? And that's where they want you to stay. Okay. So to lead, put in motion, to drive, to draw out or forth. Again, this is them taking something out of you, placing it with what they took out of Adam and creating a man from the dust. Okay. And blowing the breath of life in them. This is about them getting to be a living and then going into the king, like we're going to talk about right here. Okay. So canonical. So canonical is like them putting it, I'm guessing, in the canon. Okay. Okay, so it says early 15th century because this is when we're talking about this. You're not talking about time before. The fifth day in the Bible in Genesis represents the 1500s. What we're talking about in Genesis 1 is not plants and animals. We're talking about people, subgroups, and sub races. Reread that with that on your mindset and check with your spirit and see if that resides with you. General sense of conformed or conforming to rule. So this is them getting the firmament ready so that God can come and rule over the nation, because he had not let it reign, meaning take control or reign like a king over the earth, meaning niggas. Okay? But they were already messing with the genes, splicing it up, changing things up with the generals. See? Because the Lord is a man of war. So again, this lordship, I think that there's many lords that have come, and some have some intentions, and like the Messiah or messenger will have a different intent. So me saying the Lord is a man of war and being using it in that, when you're reading this text, once you realize what these terms really mean, you'll see when we're talking about the Lord like that, maybe with all caps, and when we're talking about Jesus or the Messiah or something in that sense. Okay. So again, of belonging to the canon of scripture is from 1560. Now they're saying that 1611. You think that 1611 is when it was, but again, I want to see a Bible from 1611 so I can see what was in it, and even if it was, how vague was it or how robust was it? Does it match the ones that we have nowadays? Okay, because again, a certain portion of this would have been done in in the 1600s, because that's when God actually have completed everything. He didn't consecrate it and make it holy and do all that other stuff until the seventh day, which would be the 1700s. So again, the New Testament came after that, regardless of what somebody's saying. Unless I can see an old Bible from 1600s that has the New Testament, and again, would it be prophecy or plan? Okay, so when we're talking about that and we move on into the early 1800s or the late 1700s, we can still be placing that in the canon. Okay. Okay, and then what is this? Moloch. Okay, Jews express their horror of worship. Okay, so anyways, we've gone too far into this, but I really like everybody to get a better understanding as to what we're talking about. This is why I do this. Okay, so it says, okay, God's house will be my undoing. Okay, what right have you to order them out? The Jewish leaders demanded. The Jewish mankind. Mankind is kind of like a man. Okay? Jewish is kind of like a Jew. 12-ish mean I might be there around that time. You see what I'm saying? So leaders demanded, if you have this authority from God, show us a miracle to prove it. Okay, so again, here we go. So we can take that whole thing about a wizard. You know, we say that you're not supposed to do magic, and wizardry is wrong and bad and all this other stuff. But then what are we talking about here? Because that would sound like to me today that we're talking about show us some kind of magic. And so we can get that all out of our mind. Let's go ahead and look real quick at what a miracle is. Oh, I don't even think I spelled that wrong. Let's see. Yeah, I didn't. Okay. Yeah, she can't spell. And like I said, I'm not, I'm really just led by a certain spiritual thing, not the one you think we're talking about in church, the real deal. So again, you know, there's not supposed to be perfection here. So, okay. If you're looking for that, go somewhere else, but you're probably not going to get the correct message. Again, some of us can go into this stuff not having all of it, but can still give yourself and myself an understanding while we're looking at it together. Because I'm never trying to say that I'm above or over anyone. I'm just saying that I am a group amongst a group of people that do their due diligence or try to. Okay, mid 12th century, a wondrous work of God, a miracle, a story of a miracle play. Again, object of wonder. To wonder at, marvel, be astonished. Okay, so this is just something to be astonished. Okay, regard, esteem, mirrors, wonderful, astonishing, amazing. Earlier from to smile, laugh, smiling, to smile. Um, Slavnik, to laugh.